Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unscaled Travel Show. I am the Full Metal Traveler, Jeremy Long, joined as always by my co-host and explorer, Amy.
Hi.
And we have a fun show planned for you. We're going back to Roma. We're going back to the ancient city, talk about the city itself, some of the, obvious places to go to, our tips for getting there, for moving around the city, some restaurants you can enjoy, our favorites anyway, and, some tips for whenever you are out and about, depending on what time of the year you are out there doing things. So it's a really fun show, especially if you haven't been to Rome or Italy yet, but we're focusing right in on the capital city. So, Rome is one of those places, man. I mean, I think it's one of the places, along with like Paris and a few others, that it's one of those locations that it's one of the first ones you think about.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say. Like when you think about national destinations, especially if you're American, you think about it from an early age as a traveler. Maybe you're one of the lucky few who gets to travel when you're young, but most people don't get to travel until they're a little bit older. But it's one of those that captures your imagination right off the bat.
Right. It's one of those easily recognizable destinations that you see the pictures of the Colosseum or the Vatican or other iconic places from Rome, and you automatically know that's Rome. And for me, a lot of times when you see something in a movie or a picture and then we go and we see it in real life, it's a little bit of not a letdown, but it's just not as magnificent as I think it's going to be. I did not have that feeling at Rome. Everything was just as impressive in person as it is in a movie or on a postcard.
And maybe even more so. The larger than life places, the Colosseum and the Pantheon and these places that are often, they have to shoot them in certain ways to get them, in film and make you feel like you're there and everything. And then when you're in front of it or you walk into these places, just blown away.
Right. How many times were we walking around and we're like, oh, remember this from this movie and remember this from that TV show?
Exactly. And you're just like, oh, wow, I remember. And then you included one, and I think it was the fountains. Oh, no, it was a completely made-up fountain and a movie that was set in front of.
So the movie's When in Rome.
Okay.
And there's a whole scene in a fountain, and I wanted to find this fountain because there are so many in Rome, and we couldn't find it. And then I look it up, and turns out it was a fake fountain they made for the movie because they wanted a certain person. Yes, they wanted Venus in this fountain, and there is no fountain of Venus. But it did lead us to walk around the city and find a lot of really beautiful fountains, which is one of the many things you can do there is go on a walking fountain tour.
Yeah. I mean, they sit on a throne of lies, basically. Because we did. We searched for this fountain, and then, Google tells us that we were, searching in vain. But there are, very real places. Of course, there are fountain tours, and there are a ton of fountains and things. But, like, the famous places, so, like, your Spanish Steps and your Trevi Fountain, the Pantheon we already kind of mentioned, the Galleria Sciarra. I'm going to butcher that. I'm sorry. Sciarra, I think. These are very real places, and these are very popular places.
Yes.
So, what did you learn? I know this is kind of an open-ended question, but what did you learn about visiting a few of these places as we kind of walked around and saw the city?
So it's the thing we've said before with other highly popular landmarks, get there early.
Yep.
Because for the first day you and I were separated, I had to go do something else and you were walking around, and you hit a lot of these places first thing in the morning and got some amazing pictures. And then when we went back a day later and you took me, it was more midday, a little after lunch, and they were so crowded. We could not get any good pictures. We were pushing to get even somewhat close to the fountain and the steps. So I would definitely get there early if there's something that you absolutely want to see and you want to get some good photos of.
That seems to be tip one. That is the main focus, like especially for. These are all free things, like the Trevi Fountain, well, the Pantheon's not free. The Spanish Steps and the Trevi Fountain, these are like free things, right? But that also means that people, I don't get the Spanish Steps. To me, it's just some steps.
It was a bunch of steps.
Some stairs, and I get the history and things like that. but you could throw a rock at anything in Rome, and that's going to be historical.
Right.
They got restaurants that go back, I mean, hundreds of years. That's always been a restaurant or some kind of pub or something like that. The Spanish Steps, if you're going to visit them, make it a point. Like, I know there's not a whole lot of, morning people and stuff like that, but I definitely am not a morning person, but I had to be up early with you. And I went out. I grabbed breakfast just walking down the street later on in the day, but I got there early. There were already people walking. There were photographers taking wedding photos, trying their best. There were already tourists who were they didn't care that wedding photos were going on. They were just walking between the bride and groom,
Right.
So if you're going to do things like the Spanish Steps and Trevi Fountain, get there early.
Yeah.
Or get there late. I've also seen some very intriguing night photos, but it can be hit or miss.
Well, and so when you did take me back to the Trevi Fountain the first time, so your second time going there, they were actually cleaning the fountain, which we didn't realize was something they do on a regular basis, but apparently they do clean it. Like
they clean it once a week.
Yeah. Which makes sense because it's beautiful and the water is pristine. But it was a little disappointing to get there and see no water and these guys with pressure washers cleaning it. But people were still standing there taking pictures. And I thought, okay, well, that's going to be it for me. I'm not going to come back and see this. But we did happen to wander back by the next day.
I had to bring you back by another time because, I mean, if you're going to see something like the Trevi Fountains and they're cleaning it, pressure washing, that's bad luck. You got to make a return trip, man. You got to see it in all its splendor. But they have to do it because of the amount of change that people throw into it.
Hundreds of people are crowded around this fountain at all times.
They're always throwing coins.
Super early. There are hundreds of people just packed around this, getting pictures, videos.
And it's actually, I mean, if you've never been, obviously this is for first-time visitors. If you haven't been, it's actually a good size square. I mean, the Trevi Fountains are actually bigger than I thought they were.
Much bigger.
So much bigger. But even when we went midday, it was 3 and 4 people deep just to, basically stand around, wait for people to take their pictures. And you know how I feel about people taking their pictures. Some people are trying to do whole JCPenney catalog shoots.
A whole photo shoot.
At the Trevi Fountain while other people are waiting to just get an Instagram photo or whatever. Right. So, take your picture and move on. But anyway, it's, I mean, you're sitting there waiting. While other times, I mean, around the Trevi Fountain, there are places to eat. We'll get into that in a little bit. A couple of our favorites, we have some great gelato around there. Some fabulous places.
So good.
Okay. Trevi Fountain, Spanish Steps, get there early. Pantheon, I think it's better to get there early as well because they're all kind of right there located within walking distance of the city center, which is very convenient. Pantheon, I think, was about $5 center. You can get the advanced tickets, but there's no real need to because the line moves fast. They have 2 separate lines, one for credit cards, which takes a little bit longer, or debit cards, because they got to hook up to the internet, one for cash. If you have the euros, just use the cash, go in, and the line moves super, super quick, and it's really big. You get to see everything inside the Pantheon. And also, then you can walk out and get the breakfast and all that stuff at the
Pantheon's right on the edge of a square too. So there's restaurants, there's that.
And there's a fountain.
I was about to say there's another fountain right in front of it. So lots to do right there. And like you said, most of this is within a short walking distance. So you can hit a lot of these landmarks and monuments pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
If that's your goal, it's to see things. Like, I'm going to Rome, I want to see a bunch of stuff on the first day. If you kind of map it out, you can probably hit just about everything you want to see.
Especially right there in the city center. Again, it is walkable, but there are tons of scooters. There are tons of e-bikes. There are,
we did get scooters.
We did get scooters. That's a point that we always try to do is hit the scooters because it's fun to almost die on the roads wherever you're visiting on a regular place. So stay with us. We're going to have more tips and tricks and what we've learned going to Rome, right? All about it. It's the Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, the Full Metal Traveler. For all of our past interviews, all that good stuff, visit us online, fullmetaltraveler.com. We're talking Roman hot spots, our tips, our tricks on to, beat the crowds, beat the rush, beat that guy that owes you some money. I don't know. Whatever you might need in Rome. That's what we're talking about. We want to shift our focus over to some paid things like the Colosseum. I don't know if you heard of the Colosseum. It's a pretty big building. You should check it out. I think they do some Netflix stuff there. I don't know. But you should. What were your first thoughts on just seeing the Colosseum?
On seeing the Colosseum, it was even more impressive in person than I thought it was going to be. And I don't say that lightly about many things. It was truly a sight to behold. I mean, I don't know how else to word it, but I was a little bit blown away by the sheer size of it. And just by, you're looking at this thing that is massive and it has so much history. And it is kind of just this architectural, gorgeous thing to see. So just being there in person was incredible to me.
Yeah. It's this like architectural and at the time, this marvel of engineering. And it still is. So it's very popular, obviously. All of these stops are. And it's all of these places are kind of within walking distance, or at least a short scooter ride. We took our e-scooters. We rented them through Uber, I think. One of those kind of situations. And we were flying down the streets. We were defying the odds. We had a tour planned. We booked this tour last minute. And so one of our points of this show is to tell you right off, one tip that you want to take away from this: as soon as you find out you're going to Rome, as soon as you find out you're going to Italy, start booking your excursions.
Right.
Book them.
So when we say last minute, we booked this about 2 weeks out from our trip.
If even that.
But it still wasn't like the day before. We looked at least 1 week out. I think it was closer to 2. There were no tickets available to just go in and sightsee inside.
They sell out very quick.
Right. So we shifted and looked on Viator and found that they offered tours. Unfortunately, all of the English tours were already sold out at this time. So we thought, well, we just want to get in and see it. Yeah. So you had the very brilliant idea to join an Italian-speaking tour. So that was the plan. That's what we had tickets for when we showed up in Italy, was to join an Italian-speaking tour of the Colosseum so that we could see it all.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not enough Italians signed up for that. The tour was canceled at the last minute, like literally the day before. They texted us and said, hey, not enough people are on this tour, so we're going to try to shift you over to an English one. Ultimately, nothing worked out. The reason I like going through the company Viator, however you want to say it, is that they refunded our money that day.
Right.
They contacted us, said, hey, there's no other option, and it didn't just work with our schedule, so they refunded us that day. They're a very reputable company, not a paid sponsorship, just saying that they are a good company to work with, especially when it comes to tours in unfamiliar places. So if you can, as soon as you find out, book your tour, and if you take 2 tips away, book your tour early and always get the skip the line pass.
Yes.
Always pay the extra money to skip the line, because you're basically saving time. That's what you're paying for. It's to save time, because you might be standing in some of these lines, the Colosseum, the Vatican, especially places like that. You might be standing for hours.
Yes. So it may be a little pricey, but it is worth it, and you will thank yourself, and people will be looking at you. We'll get to this when we talk about the Vatican in a later segment, but people will be looking at you, asking how you're able to jump in front of them in line. Well worth it.
They're like, where are you going? You're like, I'm going to see stuff, baby. Have a good time standing here watching me walk away.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, we weren't able to go inside the Colosseum, but we were able to walk around the outside of it and get some good photos. And you found a great spot for us to get some fantastic photos.
Yeah, a great spot. It's kind of, it's lesser well-known, but it's still a pretty good spot it's right across the street on like the back side of the Colosseum, if there is a back side. It is the backside of the Coliseum, but you can easily find it on Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever your map thing is. And I am going to butcher this name so much. Oh my God. It's the wow, that is horrible. Giardino del Monte Opa. Okay. I will have that listed on the website because I absolutely killed that.
Go to fullmetaltraveler.com and we will have it written out for you. But
Giardinetto.
Anyway,
oh wow,
it's across the street. You do have to go up some steps because the streets are not level. Mm-hmm. So you're walking basically up to the next street and they have an overlook and it puts you above the crowd. So you are getting much better shots of the Coliseum and you're head on instead of kind of shooting everything up with the sky in the background.
Yeah, I got some really great pictures of the Coliseum from there without the crowds, without the all the heads bobbing in your photos and everything, especially if you're short.
And then right next to the Coliseum was another area we did not get to explore, but we could see the Roman Forum, and we'll definitely be going back there next time.
The Roman Forum is quite popular. I think it's a few bucks or a few euros to get in there as well. And then there is like the Circus Maximus, where they used to hold all these games and stuff like that back in the day. Unfortunately, when we went by there, they were setting up for an event that was going to be held the next weekend.
Yeah,
a lot of scaffolding and
food
tents.
and wine festival they were having down there.
So we didn't really get to roam around the Circus Maximus, but once you see it, you kind of go, okay, I get the gist of it.
It's kind of a big field. But we did stop and have a light lunch right there next to it, and we were watching them building out. I think it was the Fallow Bistro.
Fallow Bistro, which is right across the street.
Yes, and it was a super hot day, so we were looking to get out of the sun for a little bit, have a drink, cool down, and they had there's a lot of little bistros and restaurants right there with tables outside, covered umbrellas, so you're able to sit out and still enjoy the scenery, but beat the heat for a few minutes, which we totally took advantage of.
So the Fallow Bistro right there, great place to grab a drink or a bite. And all these places are within walking distance. The Coliseum is right up the road, right by Circus Maximus. The Roman Forum's right nearby. And then very quickly, let's talk about the Theater Marcellus that we kind of stumbled upon.
Yeah, so there's so much history in Rome that you can just be going down a random street and come across something really interesting you didn't even know was there. And that's kind of what happened to us. We were on our scooters going to the Coliseum, and we come across a smaller version of it.
Yeah.
So we pulled over and walked around, and it was the Theater of Marcellus.
Yeah, the Theater Marcellus dates back. It actually predates the Colosseum, but it has that same architecture. So it looks like a mini version of the Colosseum. And, it's around the Julius Caesar time. So Julius Caesar himself probably went to this theater and was like, oh, my God, this place sucks, and moved on from it and everything else, shaking his head at some people. Like, you brought me to this? Oh, my God. But it's very fascinating to think that, people like that we still study today, probably walked along those same little dirt roads and paths and stone paths and everything and discussed the day and discussed the times and discussed Shakespeare. Well, no, that would come later.
Different country.
Jeez, I don't even know my years. Okay, Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, the Full Metal Traveler. Be sure to check us out, fullmetaltraveler.com. All those past episodes, including the one we did not too long ago about some of our favorite Roman day trips, or day trips outside of Rome anyway. And we had a lot of fun driving around. Well, not so much the driving part, but getting around there, seeing some fun stuff. Check out that past episode as well. You check it out on the website. We're now, we're talking about famous or best practices for a lot of Roman hot spots, whether they're free like the Spanish Steps or paid like the Colosseum. A little bit later, we're going to talk about our time at the Vatican, which was very cool. But right now, we're going to talk about some of our favorite restaurant finds around the city. Now, here's the thing. You like to go to places, if you're like me, you don't want to hit corporate spots. You don't want to hit chains as best you can. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but and a lot of people are like, I don't want to go to touristy spots. Well, if you're going around touristy areas, everything in the city center of Rome could be considered a touristy area.
Right.
And look, there's so much good food, and it's not overpriced everywhere. You're going to have some good options out there. So I think a couple of these might be like more chain restaurants.
Yeah, but they're not chains that
They're
we
not chains
know.
to us,
They're not
so
familiar to
wow.
us. So it's still
Sounds
a
good.
unique experience, I think.
Sounds
Because
good.
the same thing happened when we were in France. We came across a few places that ended up being chains there. Same thing here. So it's still a new experience to us as Americans.
We didn't knowingly go to a chain, though. So that's kind of the point. The first place I went to was without you. It was the early morning that I went out and ventured out on my own. And I am more about aesthetics. I like to sit in places, and this place kind of checked off all the boxes for me. I like to sit in a place and go, oh, look at how beautiful this is. And then kind of people watch. But right there at the Pantheon, right in the little square that they have a square and a fountain and all that good stuff. The 1910 Restaurante was a place I had breakfast. They had a beautiful breakfast selection. It wasn't expensive. It was very, very budget friendly for, small little breakfast and everything. And they have eggs and all that good stuff. But a great little menu, the 1910 Restaurante. And I got to sit and look at the Pantheon and just be like, oh, wow. Because I'm a history nerd. And I was very like, oh, my gosh, look how cool this is. And then I got to people watch.
Right. And then we went back to that same exact area the next day for lunch and had pizza at, and I hope I'm saying this right, Napatano's.
Sure. You're asking me? Napatano? Sure, that sounds great.
Yeah, I think that's it. But we had pizza and bruschetta there and a couple of adult beverages while we enjoyed a break from the sun because totally covered patio area right there. And it was literally across from where you had breakfast that morning before.
And you still got the great views of the Pantheon.
Yeah.
And but I was sitting there I remember I was giving you historical facts about the Pantheon that you obviously did not care about because you kept noticing these people walk by, tour groups full of people walk by with these huge sandwiches.
Giant sandwiches. And they were in like red and white wax paper. But it wasn't just one or two. It would be like 20 people at a time walking by. And then another group of 10 or 15 people with these sandwiches to the point that I wanted to go find where these sandwiches were coming from.
Did we ever find?
We did not ever find where the sandwiches were coming from. When we go back to Rome, that is my mission because all of these people looked very, very happy with their sandwiches.
I was giving you facts. I'm like, oh, the Pantheon was built in whatever. And you were like, well, these sandwiches.
I love food. I mean, we're sitting there eating pizza. That was fantastic. And I'm looking at these sandwiches like, okay, we're going to follow pizza with some sandwiches. And then we're going to go get some gelato, which we did end up doing by the Trevi Fountain.
Yeah, you were really, I was really impressed with the gelato at the place we found near the Trevi Fountain.
Don Nino's. And they didn't just have gelato. They also had a bakery in there. So they had all types of baked goods, macarons. I mean, so much. I wanted one of everything. But the best gelato I've ever had.
Yeah, I think I got a fruit, like some kind of fruit gelato. I forget exactly what it was, but it was very good. I remember that because I eat every bit of it, and I'm usually not like an ice cream and gelato kind of person.
I am, though, and I loved mine.
But
you
also
can get all those different flavors. So I think I had 3 different scoops of flavors, and sitting there eating that, looking at the Trevi Fountain, it was one of those moments like you won't forget that.
What about also Rome is really great with rooftop bars and rooftop restaurants, and we hit a few of those. Not very many, a few enough to get a sense of it. What was the one we hit the very first night?
Right. So when we got into Rome, it was kind of late in the evening that first night, I think around 7 or 8, and we were hungry and we didn't want to go out. So we were staying at Hotel Savoy, and they do have a rooftop terrace restaurant and bar called Garnet's, I believe. And so we stopped up there. We went up there for dinner, had some wonderful pasta. I think we both had the lasagna.
Maybe.
I
Sure,
believe
that sounds
so.
about right.
Lasagna and a glass of wine. And then we went up to the next level, which is the actual high part of the rooftop where you could see views of the entire city, which
Yeah.
was, a great introduction
Just
into Rome.
Gorgeous. Just gorgeous. I mean, and again, you won't go wrong, I don't think, with any of the rooftop bars in the city. The closer you get to the city center, will upcharge you. It's just like being in Vegas.
Right.
If you're going to go to a restaurant on the strip, you're going to get an upcharge. I don't think it's as bad as Vegas.
Right.
But there are some places that will charge you just for the location. And there are a number of places to eat around all of these famous architecture spots and historical spots that you can get, especially in the evenings when the lights come on, like at the Coliseum and places like that. If you can make reservations, do it as soon as you know. Especially if you want those like nighttime photos and that kind of nighttime feel of these places. But if you're okay with eating somewhere else, you're definitely going to find an easier time getting into restaurants the further out from the city center that you go.
And most of the places are not very big either. They maybe have at most 20 tables. So if you're traveling with a large group, I would definitely call ahead. Or if it's just, you and someone else, like the two of us traveling, be prepared that you may have a long wait. And is it worth it to eat here, or do you want to go somewhere else? Because there are tons of options. We stumbled across a few other places that we didn't intend to eat at, but it just looked so good, and they had a table available. So one of them near our hotel was La Bruschetta. It was this tiny little place. They only had a few tables inside, and then outside on the sidewalk, they had another 5 or 6 tables. So that's where we ended up sitting. And the waitress talked us into getting their famous, she said, hand-stuffed deep-fried olives, which I'm not an olive fan, but I thought I would try it. That's what we were there for, and they were delicious.
Oh, yeah. The hand stuff. And yeah, you definitely are not an olive person, but you ate it all.
I did.
You ate it all.
And then I ate my pasta afterwards, and then I ate tiramisu after that.
And this is the area around where the Hotel Savoy is, or the Rome Marriott
Flora.
Flora right there, which is by the Villa Borghese park, the real big park, famous park, right in the heart of Rome. So it's all right in that kind of area. 2 minutes walking from each location where you're going to find La Bruschetta, and there was a couple of other places. We're about to talk about the Vatican, but very quickly, what was the name of the place that we went to after we got outside of the Vatican?
Right outside of the Vatican was this little place called La Pilata. It looks like pilot, but Pilata, I think is how you say it. So good. I think you had the spaghetti and I had maybe a fettuccine. I don't know. At that point, we were hungry. We were exhausted. It had been a long day, but fantastic meal.
And we are going to have all of these places listed along with this episode on Full Metal Traveler, because I am butchering the names of all of these places. So you're going to want to check us out on there. And I just apologize to all the Italians everywhere for just, being American.
We'll try harder next time.
Yeah, we'll try harder. We'll try harder next time. Yeah, that's a good, yeah. So when we come back, we are going to talk about the Vatican, because you could spend an entire day there.
Right.
Tips, tricks, everything. Rome. Unscaled Travel Show.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, the Full Metal Traveler. Check us out, fullmetaltraveler.com, all of our past episodes and interviews and beautiful things like that. Of course, we're talking Roman hotspots, all of our tips and tricks, what we've learned. And because I butcher the names of everything, in Italy, you're going to want to check out the actual spelling and sound it out on the website, fullmetaltraveler.com. I apologize throughout this episode.
We cannot speak Italian. It's very obvious.
I can barely speak English. So now we're going to shift our focus to the Vatican.
Yeah.
The Vatican, I think I underestimated the Vatican in so many ways. Number one, the sheer size
Absolutely.
of the Vatican. You can spend, and I am not joking here, days within the Vatican walls, looking at all the artifacts, all the art, all the sculptures, taking it all in, and days and days in there.
Right.
If you don't have that time, here are my recommendations. There are recommendations that we know right off the top. 1, book a tour. Okay, book a tour in your preferred language. 2, get the skip the line pass.
Right.
It wasn't even supposed to be a busy day at the Vatican when we went, because I think we went in the middle of the week.
We went on a Tuesday.
Yeah, on a random Tuesday. And when we were walking up with our tour group, and the tour group wasn't huge,
No,
but there
I think
was
we had about 15 people in our
about
group.
15 people. There was already a line for the Vatican that wrapped around several corners of it. And, our tour guide was like, these people are probably going to spend hours in line waiting for their turn to get into the Vatican.
My other tip would be to book that tour as early as possible.
Yes.
Our tour was for 8:45. And as you said, there was a line at least half a mile long for people waiting to get in just general admission. So if you can get a 7 a.m. tour, take it. Because once you get inside, there's other people who have already been standing in line. So even at 9 o'clock in the morning, it was already kind of crowded.
Yeah, it was, and they have a whole processing center,
Yes.
which was fun. I didn't know about that. They have a processing center where you go and you turn in your tickets for the vouchers to get in, and then you also get a headset.
If you're doing a tour.
If you're doing a tour, you're part of the tour group, you get a headset so that you don't have to be right next to your tour guide to hear, because it's impossible.
Right.
You're going to be surrounded by people, and there's some very narrow hallways, so you're not always going to hear. The headsets allow you to hear what your tour guide's saying at a reasonable volume, so you don't miss anything. Mm-hmm. And don't get left behind like I did a few times.
And there are lots of tours. All the tour guides carry some type of flag. And when you look out across the sea of people, you see all these flags. So there's tons of people giving tours. If you're doing it, you will want to wear the headset so you can hear your tour guide, who is giving you all kinds of fascinating backstories and information. Our tour guide was wonderful. Because it is so big, she was telling us, we're going to skip this part. These are all reproductions in here. Or we're going to skip this museum. These are all just gifts to whichever pope. And she took us to what she knows people want to see and some of the more interesting pieces inside the Vatican.
Yeah. Now, the con of that, there's the pros. The con of that is that they promise you a certain amount of time touring.
Right.
And they are trying to stretch that time. So even when she had to skip a lot of things, which I am very thankful for, because, again, history nerd, I can get caught up in looking at the smallest details about things that, I guess ultimately don't matter. But she was very good at having a skip. But there were certain parts where she stretched out, trying to, you could tell, just trying to make the time fit, because they want to give you what they promise you. They're very good people and they're very knowledgeable. But if you're doing it yourself, you could probably skip some other stuff. And there are certain situations you would probably just skip on down the line.
Yeah, I did feel like we spent a lot of time in the very beginning with her giving us a lot of the history of the Vatican, things like that, that I would have preferred her to give us as we were walking. But we kind of stopped and she was sort of pointing out different things as we stood there kind of right in the entrance. And it seemed like the longer we stood there, the more and more people filtered past us. And so she was telling us some really cool things to do. And you and I were like, yes, we'll do that at the end. We'll go see this. Because the tour only takes you to a certain point. And then beyond that, you're on your own if you want to do other things. And we wanted to go up inside the dome. And by the time we got there, we were exhausted. So we didn't feel like waiting in another line.
We'll get to St. Peter's Basilica, where you can go into the dome and all that stuff in just a second. But again, the earlier you get there, the more people you're going to beat to stand in these lines. And there are lines for everything upstairs and downstairs in the Basilica. So there's all kinds of fun stuff to see. But what were some of your highlights? I know we did, of course, the Sistine Chapel and things like that. But what were some of your highlights?
So getting to the Sistine Chapel, you have to walk through the Hall of Maps, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a long hall, and there are maps painted on the walls, floor to ceiling, of what the area and surrounding areas looked like at that time. But it is fascinating and gorgeous. Yeah. Probably one of my favorite parts of the whole thing was seeing these beautiful maps. I took lots of pictures.
Yeah. And it's through various points in history of what they thought the world looked like, or what, the maps they had available, or the latest, I guess the latest update to Google Maps at the time, what it was, and the kind of the topography and things like that they looked at.
Right. And from what I remember, our tour guide told us, basically we came in on the back, like we did it backwards because we were with the tour group and we got to do it sort of in reverse. But she said if you start at the other end, it's chronological. So we were kind of seeing it from newest to oldest the way we came, but gorgeous.
Walking through history, basically.
It was my personal favorite part. I liked it even more than the Sistine Chapel personally.
So the Sistine Chapel is a point of debate for a lot of people. And you see it online, just like a lot of other places, that it may be to some a little bit overrated. Some people, because of the rules and different things, and maybe it left a bad taste in their mouth or something like, just visiting those areas. One, security is very tight.
Very.
And they are trying to get as many people in to see the ceiling and then out so other people can come in. So they do have a system in place, especially when tour groups are concerned. But the Sistine Chapel, they don't want you taking pictures and video inside the chapel because it is an active place of religious activity and worship and things of this nature.
Right.
So, they're trying to let people see this beautiful ceiling, these beautiful art frescoes done by Michelangelo, the famous painter, sculptor, all of that. But they also don't want you to be disrespectful.
Right.
I was disrespectful a little bit.
A lot of people were disrespectful.
A lot of people.
So the security guards, first thing you need to know is when you walk in, they are herding you.
Like cattle.
They're herding you like cattle into a group in the middle of the floor. Where we came in, we were actually kind of raised, and you had to go down sort of a sloped walkway. And I was concerned I was going to fall off the side because there's no railing, and people are pushing because the security guards are like, get down there, get down there, get down there. And you're just kind of shoved into this mass of people, and everyone is staring straight up because they're all looking at the ceiling. And all you hear are no photos, no photography, no video. Like they keep saying it over and over. But when you look around, much like you, everyone had their phone in their hands.
Everyone had their phone in their hands, secretly recording the ceiling. Yes, I apologize now to the people in the Vatican. But you know what? I waited a long time and paid a good amount of money. And I broke the rules a little bit, and I'm sorry.
Are you really sorry?
Not really. Kind of maybe. As a traveler, and you want to be responsible, right? Because we're not just on vacation. We also are part of this travel community, and we're trying to make it better. So I do kind of admit that maybe I shouldn't have done that.
But we didn't touch anything.
I didn't. There were people touching things.
There were.
We saw people everywhere.
There are sculptures everywhere.
They're rubbed off on different places and things. Because people just go back there and they're just touching things and, I don't know. It's weird. So very quickly, move on from the Sistine Chapel to St. Peter's Basilica and how just mind-blowing that is.
Right. It is. I can't even comprehend how big it was. Like I was not prepared for that. And by that point, we'd already been walking for about 3 hours through the Vatican. So I wish that we would have gone back maybe another day and done just the basilica by itself because there was so much to see. We didn't get to see everything. You can go downstairs, you can go up into the dome, but just in the actual basilica itself, sculptures, paintings line the entire structure. Everywhere you look is something.
Yeah.
It was a little bit overwhelming. I wish we would have had a map to show us exactly what everything was. We could have planned it out a little bit better.
Get to what you can get to and plan your return trip back next time. All right. Unscaled Travel Show, Roman Hotspots. We hope you enjoy. See you next time.